Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having us here today. My name is Sofia Carloni. I am Event and Marketing Manager at JENTIS, and I'm really excited about moderating this masterclass today. So thank you for coming. So we just have 30 minutes together today. However, we want to give you as many advices as we can in regards to data privacy and how to avoid authorities to come and knock at your door, really. So I will need your help from your side, loads of questions. So please, if you have any questions, just raise up your hand and we will wave your question in through the panel. So now, our first panelist, he's industry veteran and now Chief Revenue Officer at JENTIS. In the past, he was Chief Revenue Officer for User-Centrics, and he was also Head of Strategic Partner Development at Google for the Dutch region. Please, a warm applause to Jürgen Weichert.
Thank you.
Our second panelist today is partner at Phil Fisher. He advises companies in any sort of ranking from startups to global multinationals in technology law matters, such as data regulation in terms of privacy. His main focus is ad tech, and he's one of the most renewed experts in the legal industry with more than 12 years of experience. Please welcome to Stefan Simprich. So first of all, we would like to know you a little bit better. So please raise your hand if you work in the online marketing. Okay. I guess it's a clear situation. Now, who works in data protection? Okay. And most important, for whom is data protection an increasing part of the role? Then I guess you are in the right masterclass. And we are ready to start. Okay, so first question, we will need to change the, just 1 second. Okay, yeah. So our first topic will be current development. Stefan, would you like to give us a quick intro in regard to this topic?
Yeah, sure. And thank you. And thank you for joining this afternoon. Welcome, everybody. Privacy made quite a career. I would have imagined that 10 years ago this would have looked differently, like 10 people probably. Yeah, we saw two major developments in the past 2 or 3 years. And one is the famous Schrems II ruling. So the European Court of Justice had a say on data transfers to the US and imposed challenging requirements on any data transfer. The result of which is that today there is a risk that when you use a tracker on your website that results in a browser calling directly a US server, that this is already regarded as a US transfer and meeting all the legal requirements that are imposed on a US transfer is very, very difficult today. And the second important development is the IAB TCF, the Belgium Data Protection Authority, APD, issued an order against IAB Europe. It is appealed. It is currently referred to the ECJ, but the ruling itself casts very much doubt about whether the IAB TCF in its current form is a suitable mean to collect consent for the collection of data, to feed this data into the open RTB ecosystem, to use the data for marketing purposes. So these two developments make it challenging to comply with the law when you have a website and you use technology to collect data and to use data. And we would like to discuss today how technology can help to overcome these legal challenges and make you more secure when you implement your tech stack.
Thank you, Stefan, for your introduction. My first question will be, how do you respond to privacy-related questions usually? How do your regulators approach companies? Are there any immediate necessities for the website owners currently?
Yeah, sure. Well, when a regulator approaches you, it typically starts with a letter. with a lot of questions. So what trackers do you use? What data is collected? What is the legal basis for your data collection? And so on. And then you have like a deadline, usually 2 to 4 weeks. You may extend that deadline for another 2 weeks or even 4 weeks if you're lucky. But that's about it. In that 2 to 8 weeks maximum, you have to respond to this long list of questions. And if you do not know at that point in time what to answer, then you have to start collecting all this information under pressure. Within a large company, this is quite a task. You have to reach out to a lot of people. A lot of information may even be unknown to that day. So our advice always is be in a position to be able to respond to such a questionnaire and do not start searching for that information once you receive it.
It's good we have experts like you then, of course. Now, Jürgen, how is the tech stack involved in all of this?
Well, very good question, because Stefan already said if you start answering the questions or collecting the answers once you have the letter, it's too late. The problem is, what is the implication? You may have gaps. You may have gaps on the privacy side. You may have gaps on your tech stack, and those have to be changed. So if you start an IT project with very tight timelines, things have to be resolved, usually in a matter of a few weeks, as Stefan pointed out. It's too late. So what you need is actually a flexible, variable, privacy-friendly tech stack, and only that can help you comply with requests and answer them, and then also fulfill and close the gaps.
Perfect. Thank you for that, Jürgen. Next topics. Okay.
So, as we talk about tech stack,
One slide below.
as we talk about tech stack, what we usually see is what you see on the left. So you have a browser. On the browser, there are third-party cookies. There's a consent management system, usually either of my old company, Usercentrics, or another one. And then basically data is transferred from the browser directly to the technology, be it Google, Microsoft, Facebook, whatever it is. And there's a certain lack of control. If we think back about the questions, how do you control data flow? How do you make sure that from your website data doesn't flow into the US? Personal data or personally relatable data there is no control. There is no data ownership. There's just the dying world of third-party cookies, which we learned yesterday that it will finally die next year. Let's see what happens there. But at some point it will happen. And a modern architecture provides you with control, where you have consent management, you have server-side tagging, and you control which data flows in which way to these technologies, and you can actually not only collect the data, but also process the data accordingly, meaning you can, for example, pseudonymize or anonymize the data, which means you basically don't send personalized data to the US anymore. That means Schrems 2 is solvable if the setup is in an ideal way, server-side, if the technology support it. And the world is not there yet, but the infrastructure is already possible. And a lot of the stuff we hear from our customers is that the regulators want to see that you are trying hard whatever is technically possible. So data control, data ownership, that's, by the way, also good for business. It also gives you some more peace of mind with data privacy.
Perfect. Thank you for these inputs. Now, what is the potential financial damage?
Yeah, that's always one of the main questions. So, well, if you process personal data and you don't do it in accordance with the law, then there are maximum fines in the GDPR of like up to 20 million euros or 4% of the annual global turnover of the company group. I won't advise my clients that, well, you should do something out of fear. I always try to advise my clients that you should do something to improve your your business, to improve your marketing situation. Of course, you have to have this in mind. The fines are potentially big. And as Jürgen just said, it's important that you, well, try hard to be compliant, because that will, of course, reduce a potential fine. If you just, well, don't care, then the risk is bigger that a regulator would impose something big. Well, yeah, that's the case. But I think from an organizational perspective within the company, it's very important that the compliance function and the marketing function go hand in hand, and that they really work together and cooperate. So what always is dangerous is if there is someone on the marketing side who just decides to implement new trackers and turn something on here and do something there without consulting with the compliance department or the compliance function. In an ideal world, there needs to be approval from both marketing, of course, and compliance that something new can be implemented, because in most cases there will be additional legal requirements if you implement something new. You cannot just turn on a new tracker, a new product, a new feature on your website, and then it's fine. It needs to be covered by the CMP. You may want to look at how it needs to be implemented within the JENTIS solution, for instance, or any other proxy solution that you may use. Do you need to synthesize data? Do you need to curate it in some form? And all of this has to be done. So there are really two functions involved in well, managing and governing the website and the technology and the tech stack on the website.
Now, I have just 2 questions left. Afterwards, I will leave the stage to you, so please get your questions ready. So, first question, Jürgen, what reputational damages can occur?
Well, the reputational damages, of course, in my point of view, that's the higher risk if you have a brand. If you have a brand, if you want organic traffic, if you want customer trust, then of course it's not only a privacy breach scandal. That's the fear Stefan pointed to. It's more, I would like to point it out positive, to have a competitive edge because you show that you differentiate yourself by handling data in a responsible fashion. And that increases customer trust, which increases revenues in the long time. And of course, the downside is if you don't do it, you risk reputational damage, which is never good.
And what are key points in the tech stack to be able to take control over it?
Well, key points is basically the complete process of data capturing and processing. If we think about the previous slide, if you just use third-party cookies, you have no control. So what you need is control to say, which data do I capture? What do I store maybe on my end as first-party data, raw data? And the other thing is, which data do I send in which way of pseudonymization or anonymization to which provider? Because then you are flexible and you can change and adjust your decisions as you go and as business demands or regulators demand. So it's basically a flexible system where you can have a scale from a little bit more risk to no risk, and which enables you to be as compliant as possible in the way you set up the system. So I think I mentioned it once or twice. Control is very, very important.
Of course. Now it's your time. So if you have any question, please raise your hand.
Maybe we should come to potential solutions, technical, because look, of course, I'm paid to promote JENTIS, but I would still like to show you the different options next to each other in 1 or 2 minutes. So one is, of course, JENTIS. JENTIS captures your data, lets you pseudonymize it, gives you control and ownership, and it lets you continue to use your current marketing and analytics stack. You can use Google Analytics, you can use the vast majority of your tech stack, and you can actually control and be flexible. But there are also other options. You can, of course, also decide to just use European technology providers in your tech stack. If that's an option for you, you should definitely consider it and see what the impact is on your business. And the third option is, of course, to build a privacy proxy yourself, maintain it, and those are basically the three options you have to choose from. And I say have to choose from because it's an important topic. You should definitely avoid handling data irresponsibly. So it's one of these three options which I would strongly recommend to go after. And of course, our preferred options is to use Gentis, but it's basically up to you, and we are happy also to support you in evaluating what does that mean for me. What does it mean for me to switch to European tech only? What does it mean for me to build it myself? What does it mean for me to use a provider like Gentis?
Thank you. I have another remark here. Because we spoke already about fines, and you might think, well, I'm a small business. It's just highly unlikely that a regulator would ever approach me and send a questionnaire and start an investigation. Some of you may have heard about a guy called Michael Green. Michael Green is a UK citizen, and Michael Green currently works his way through a list of US businesses that are regularly used in a tech stack, and writes demand letters and says, well, I've been visiting website XYZ. I found that this tracker directly connected to your US service. I want 2,000 euros. And in most cases, he gets 2,000 euros because, well, he did that once or twice. He went to court, and actually the court said, yes, you have the right to claim 2,000 euros. And that's just the beginning, what we see. We see mass claim vehicles in the German market already collecting thousands of privacy-related claims, and they just wait for the start. And once the ECJ will rule about whether or not an individual has a right to a small damages claim, like 100 euros, even if only 100 euros, but multiplied by 100,000, this is quite a risk. So I'm not so much concerned about fines, you have already heard that. I'm not so much concerned about discussions with the regulators, but I would be concerned about a mass class action-like lawsuit landing at your desk. That's what I would be concerned about. And so a, well, compliant solution helps mitigating that risk for sure.
Thank you, Stefan.
There's a
I
question
can see there are a few questions now. Maybe the first one was over there. Can someone get the microphone, please, from the staff? Thank you. Over there.
Here.
Hello, thank
Hello.
you. One question is from my side. It's not only a question about the legal part here, it's also a technical part where Gentis, in my opinion, can leverage the data in the big quantity and quality part. Does Gentis also offer an opportunity to increase the data quality in app tracking? Because we are now facing also big problems in the app tracking in the iOS updates.
I'll take that question. So thanks for the question. So as you implied in your question, one of the benefits of Gentis, besides enabling you to track compliantly, is of course that you gather more data. Today we do that on the web. What we are preparing now, and this is actually currently an alpha switching to beta, is to do that also in the app environment. So we will see the first companies using our app solution fairly soon, probably within this year. And next year will be a year where we definitely roll out this further, because the privacy topic and the data topic doesn't stop on the web. It doesn't stop in the mobile web. It also goes to the app space, where if you take a look at usage of the internet through apps is close to 50%. And also the ad spend pouring into the app environment is massive. So hundreds of billions. And it's at the moment the European data protection regulators also start looking at apps. They have taken a while to understand the web, but I would foresee that the app space is probably a little bit faster. But the immediate benefit would be better data quality. And that comes also to the point with all these technical stuff. If you want to increase your performance, if you want to increase your flexibility to become as compliant as possible, it's not good to wait until a letter comes, because that's definitely rushing it up. So yes, there's something coming. It's still in the early phase. If you want to learn more about that, visit us at our booth after this class. Happy to discuss in more depth.
We had a few more questions over here.
Hello, thank you. If we don't stop at the web and the app environment, if we are looking to Schrems 2, it's not about our website that we are using, it's about the little computers we have here. And we all have them, and we have like Microsoft Cloud in our offices everywhere. And if we take it serious, we can't use it anymore. We can't use like every data Microsoft is sending to a server, because it just was not like, okay, the server has to be in Europe. It was like the company doesn't have to have the possibility with, even if it's related, and it's like, now it's Microsoft Europe, and they say no, but Microsoft Europe is totally possible to send data to Microsoft America. What should we do about that? If we take that serious, that would be the next step, and so nobody can explain to me what this stupidity is that we are facing now.
Oh, I agree. So, to a certain extent, at least. So, well, it's not impossible to transfer data to the US from a legal perspective. So, but it's very, very difficult, and under some circumstances, may even be impossible to do it in a compliant manner. With respect to Microsoft, they just issued or published their new data processing agreement for Azure and Microsoft Office, I think, and they are in discussions with the regulators. They try to improve. They try to make that happen and make that work. It's difficult, yes, but I fully agree that what we see at the moment, it's really crazy, because all of you have to suffer something that should be subject to a discussion between Mrs. von der Leyen and Joe Biden, and this is the political level where we would need to look at to solve the issue. We have two problems. So one problem is that the way America is structured today and the way political decisions are made today, it's very difficult to really cut down on intelligence rights and permissions to access certain data. And on the other hand, nobody in the European Union wants to open the can of worms that would be a discussion about the GDPR. So everyone is happy that this thing finally happened after 10 years of negotiations. Nobody wants to even start discussing about whether to improve it or whether we can modify it here and there, because that would just be opening the box of Pandora. And that's like, really, Max Schrems said it, two trains just, crushing at each other. It's very difficult to imagine a solution. We now have a political agreement between the European Union and the US. Nobody knows how that will translate into a legal text so far. Max Schrems already announced that he will also attack that new agreement, regardless, of the fact that he doesn't know what is in there, but he already knows that it will still be not compliant. I would love to have that trait and foresight. But what does that mean for you? It's also not an option to wait for that new regime coming into place. It will take time until it happens, and it will be subject to a new ECJ Schrems 2-3 ruling, probably in a fairly short time.
Maybe I can also add a couple of points to this question or statement. I think, look, a lot of these things that you post in your question are not under our control here on this stage, but we do see the pain of our customers and clients. And what we as Gentis try to focus on is to solve a part, at least in the web and app space. We process the data on European servers and try to help our customers get as close to compliance as possible in the degree that they want to. The legal team of our client at the end decides how it's configured. I do see that it's a very difficult phase, and businesses really suffer unnecessarily, and we try to solve it puzzle piece by puzzle piece, but let's see what happens there. It's a lot of uncertainty these days. Unfortunately, I don't have a better answer for you today.
So another question.
Last question, please.
So I'm interested in the new SECs that got released last year. So EDPB is talking about extra security measures because the SECs isn't enough for transferring data.
Yeah.
But so far there's no ruling on which extra security measures how to use, but they given the recommendations. So in your view, from a legal matter, is it just implement as many as you can, or?
Well, if you take that seriously, you will need to look at additional measures that address exactly the concerns that the ECJ has voiced. So the French regulator CNIL, they published a bit of guidance that is very, well, resounding on the Gentis solution. So they speak about proximization, server-side tracking, and that can be a solution. Then the European Data Privacy Board also issued a guidance paper concerning Schrems II compliance. That is nigh to impossible to implement in an online marketing context. It might work in a cloud computing context because they work a lot with, or assume that it's possible to work with encryption of data where the keys are located in Europe, controlled by the exporter of the data. For a cloud hosting service, that makes sense. For an AdTech or MarTech stack, that doesn't make sense because it's, of course, required for the importer to be able to process the data in the clear.
I would like to add also there, so there are no binding decisions. You are 100% right. What Stefan mentioned, the CNIL statement is actually an indicator of which directions the regulators are thinking about. Another thing, and it's a very small signal, but I think also very promising, the Data Protection Authority of Liechtenstein actually confirmed to Gentis in writing that if used right, Gentis can be a means to help with Schrems II. Of course, depending on the configuration, any software can be configured in a compliant or non-compliant way, but at least there's a possibility. So things are adding up, and at least the pace of the authorities is getting faster than we saw in the past in giving us more information. So I think that's a promising signal, at least.
Perfect. We are just about out of time, so we want to thank everyone and obviously invite you to join us at our booth. We are at Hall 7, ALD number 41. And actually, we are having a party next to Platform today at 6:30, so you're more than welcome to join us. And also, if you have further questions, of course, our sales team are more than welcome and happy to answer you. Of course, thank you, first of all, to our panelists for their insights today. So a warm applause, please, to them. Thank you also to the organizers at DMEXCO for having us here today. And thank you, all of you, for all your wonderful questions. And I'll see you at our booth, I hope.
And thanks to legendary Sophia for moderating this panel.
Thank you.